Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council meeting in the City of San Bruno to order for May 26th. I'd like to begin by thanking the San Bruno Garden Club for the flowers they've presented for this evening's meeting. If we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Mayor Franzella.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here. If I could ask our city attorney to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple announcements this evening. The first is the City Council will hold study sessions to review the annual budgets for the year beginning July 1, 2009. Well, the first budget study session will be on July 8th, and we have one scheduled for July 17th. We've had a request from staff to see if we could schedule one for, June 8th and 17th. See if we could schedule one for June 16th. Does that work with the council? That's Tuesday evening.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we'll do, the first will be June 8th, the second will be June 16th. Okay, and then possibly the 17th, we may not need that date, but we'll have it. All right. Secondly, the 69th Annual Posey Parade, sponsored by the San Bruno Lions Club, will be held on Sunday, June 7th, 1 o'clock p.m. It's always a fun day in town. Past District Governor Mel Phillips is here. Did you want to speak on it, say a couple words? Sure, go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name's Mel Phillips. I'm a 40-year resident of San Bruno, and tonight I'm here as a San Bruno Lion and chairperson of the 69th Annual Posey Parade. The parade will take place, as the mayor said, on June 7th. It will form on Keynes Avenue between El Camino and San Mateo Avenue. Judging will start at 12:30, and it'll be the judging will be finished by 1 o'clock when the parade starts. This year's theme is the many cultures of San Bruno, and the princess and her court will be chosen Thursday at 3 o'clock at City Hall by our city clerk. It'll be pulled out of a sealed envelope. The Posey Parade promises to be a delightful afternoon for all involved. Hi, Stephen. And the San Bruno Lions Club, following our international motto of "We Serve," are proud to be the organizers of the Posey Parade, and I would like to mention our valued sponsors, which are the City of San Bruno Garbage Company, San Bruno Cable, the Daily Journal, CJ Roofing, Bill's Lock Shop, San Bruno Auto Center, Molly Stone's Markets, Tony's Auto Repair, Marshall Real Estate, Prudential of California Real Estate, Bruce Construction, John and Irene Cobbleson, Sweet Connections, and the shops at Tampa. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you now.
Any questions this time?
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 7th. Thank you. Item C, the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency will have a meeting following this evening's council meeting. And tonight we have the honor to present a couple of employee awards for employees who've been with the city for a number of years. And the first is being presented this evening to Mike Coffey. Mike is a shift paramedic coordinator with the fire department. He's the lead instructor for our CPR program, acting fire captain. He's the automatic external defibrillator instructor, coordinated installation of AEDs in all of the city facilities, and public education officer. And at this time, let me call on Chief Dennis Haig to say a few more words. Right.
Mayor, City Council, thank you. I would like to make some brief comments on firefighter paramedic Mike Coffey in recognition of his 25 years of service with the San Bruno Fire Department. Mike started his career here in San Bruno in May 1984. I had the opportunity to work with Mike about 10 years ago in Millbrae while he was interning for his paramedic certification. I found him to be a man of few words, but he had a very dedicated and professional attitude about his work. His personnel folder has numerous commendations for his work in the field and in the fire station. I would like to say Mike has been an excellent role model for the younger firefighters, and he continues to lead by example. He's truly an asset in the department. Mike, congratulations.
Mike, if you join us at the podium. I'm told you have about an hour's speech.
Members of the council, mayor, thank you very much, and Chief Haig as well. 25 years went by pretty quick, like 25 minutes underwater. Not kidding. It was, I mean, it did go by very quick. I thought I was going to get a Rolex tonight.
Well, you could probably sell that ruby.
Is that okay? Yeah. A little bling on my uniform. But, no, very nice. I have a place in my house for this, and thank you very much. I'll
Thanks
see you
a lot.
in the next
Appreciate
25 years.
Through the chair.
Councilmember Medina.
Just very quickly, I wanted to also having the opportunity to have worked with Mike Coffey as an employee, who also we were required at the time to do CPR training, which at the time I always thought, why do we have to do this? But his training and his efforts that he continues to do today enabled me at one point in the early 1990s to utilize that and help save a person's life, which that was attributed to Mike and his education to me as a staff member. So he's a very quiet and modest man, but his dedication to this department and to the community has never been questioned.
The second award we have this evening is a 30-year anniversary pin that goes to Commander Mark Catalano. Mark started with the police department as a community service officer in 1979. Worked as evidence and property officer, patrol officer, and even did a little bit of dispatching. Commander Catalano was hired as a police officer in 1981 and later served a variety of assignments, including field training officer and detective. Mark was one of the first DARE officers in the department, and he served as the department's DARE coordinator after being promoted to sergeant in 1997. Mark was promoted to lieutenant in 2001 and commander in 2007. Mark was instrumental in developing the department's zero tolerance enforcement campaign for the 4th of July, and he also coordinated the department's Stop, Look, and Wave pedestrian safety program, which won an award from the state of California at the Office of Traffic Safety. Commander Catalano has received Advanced Certificate and Management Certificate from the State of California Police Officers Standard and Training. He has an associate's degree in Administration of Justice from the College of San Mateo and a bachelor's degree in Human Services from Notre Dame University. Mark's dedication to the community and city have always been greatly appreciated, and I ask the chief to step up and add a few words. Chief Telford.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to tell him now that 30 years doesn't get you a Rolex either?
Well, maybe if they put them all together. This is a diamond, so. Right.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, it's an honor to be here tonight to celebrate Mark's 30 year of achievement with the city of San Bruno. In addition to the attributes you mentioned, Mayor, I think what best describes Mark's character is he sets the example for others. He's a model for integrity, for fairness, for leading by example, and for mentoring those to work with. It doesn't matter what rank they are, Mark always takes the time to sit down with them, to help their career, to give them his elderly advice, and to see that they are well on their way in their careers. I think another thing that sets Mark apart is his dedication to the community. Obviously, by all of his attributes, you can see that, but what you don't see is when he assists human resources in recruiting for vacancies in the police department. He is one of the first ones to explain the importance of community service to those new candidates or new hires that sit in his office. And it doesn't stop there. He doesn't pass up an opportunity at the department to remind the officers who we serve and why we do what we do. Mark's ethic, Mark's actions, and his dedication to the city of San Bruno make it an honor for me to recognize him here tonight with all of you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
very brief. Again, Mr. Mayor, thank you, council members, City Manager Jackson. I really appreciate this special recognition tonight. I also want to thank Chief Telford and the men and women of the San Bruno Police Department. They're my second family. I've been here 30 years. It's just a joy to come to work and work with them every day. They're very professional, and I enjoy that. And lastly, obviously, I want to thank the community. It's a total honor to serve the citizens of San Bruno, and there's nothing else I think I'd rather do except this, and I appreciate this recognition again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Item 5, review of agenda. I'd like to pull the Park and Recreation Committee report this evening to follow item 8, public hearing. And no other changes. Item 6, approval of minutes. The regular City Council meeting of May 12th, 2009. Minutes will stand approved as submitted, unless there's any changes or corrections. Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved. Item 7, consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action may be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion unless requested by council member, citizen, or staff. Any items to be pulled or any action from council?
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, public hearings. Notices have been posted, published and mailed. Hold public hearing, waive first reading, introduce an ordinance temporarily suspending liability of airport parking facilities for a portion of the airport parking facility tax provided for by San Bruno Municipal Code 3.16.180. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, on April 28th of this year, the City Council reviewed a draft ordinance providing for an extension of the 5.5 airport parking facility tax rate through 2009. The Council directed that an ordinance be completed and brought back to the Council for their consideration, and that is the subject of the public hearing this evening. Sky Park has requested the continuance of the 5.5% tax rate. They report that their revenue trends were showing a slight increase through the early part of 2008 compared to 2007. October revenues were flat, really at the beginning of the recessionary period and the drop-off in airport travel. November and December revenues showed a significant decline, and the trend has now continued through the first quarter of 2009. A total of over 5,000 fewer vehicles use Sky Park annually compared to the pre-2006 period. At the current rate of 5.5%, the Sky Park will be paying revenue to the city in the current fiscal year of a little over $300,000. The ordinance calls for the rate at 5.5% to continue through this calendar year 2009. On the first day of 2010, the rate would automatically increase to 8%. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions the council has.
Any questions from council?
Real quick, good through the chair.
Medina?
I would just recommend in the ordinance that it states that the finance director shall conduct an audit, and I believe now it's administrative services director, so I believe that should be updated to reflect the current title.
Any other questions? Okay. This is a public hearing. Any members of the public wanting to address the city council on this? This is keeping the parking tax at the same rate that it was for calendar year 2008. Seeing no one, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
On the question? Any discussion from council or action from council?
Mr. Chair, motion to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The Chair would like to introduce the ordinance for adoption.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Now we'll move to item 9, reports of commission, boards, and committees, and San Bruno Park and Recreation Commission 2009 annual report, and Laura Davis, the committee chair, is here.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to present to you our Park and Recreation Commission annual report for 2009. First of all, I'd like to introduce some commission members who are actually here tonight. Of course, myself, Laura Davis. We've got Lori Greenberg, Dave Nigel, and Stephen Marshall, as well as other members, Sierra Bauer, who's our youth representative, Greg Pierce, our vice chair, Lucy Zamatia, Tom Lara, David Nigel, as I said, and also Bob Stanton. Again, thank you. So I want to begin with just talking about a few projects we've been working on this last year. This one here, near and dear to us, something that we are very pleased to see move forward. It's the memorial recognition. The ad hoc committee established an objective to look at the current or lack of programs in the city, come up with a policy, and we were happy to report that that was actually approved by City Council. We're currently working, we recommended a site, which is shown in an image here to the right at San Bruno Park, just to the right of the gazebo. Great little area. We did a tour of many locations and found this to be the ideal spot. We're currently working on, with the Cultural and Arts Commission, to solicit art designs, and that will hopefully close this September, and we'll be able to move forward with that. Next item, another project we've been working on, and we're actually very pleased, is the playground replacement in San Bruno. We completed this project last winter, and there are new programs at several different sites. This completes about 15 playground replacements throughout the city of San Bruno. Some playgrounds that didn't even have playgrounds at some point because they were taken down due to some concerns with the condition of the playground equipment. So residents in the neighborhood are very pleased, in fact, to actually get a park back into their neighborhood. So we're pleased to report that. Next slide. Just some images of some of the new playgrounds. Herman Park, San Bruno Park. Another committee that I think myself and Lori are very near and dear is the condition of athletic fields. So a group was started to identify current needs of existing facilities and sports groups, find locations for replacement athletic field, or identify the improvements needed for different sports groups. And really an important key thing, because without the community involvement and the support of all of those groups out there, is to really get their support from us. I can tell you with my years being on the commission that the relationship between the athletic groups and the commission and staff is at its best that it has been in many years. Different groups are working with the city to line fields, to make improvements to the fields. Everybody's getting out there to do what's needed. So just an update on this group here, we're currently analyzing field improvements at 5 locations. We've identified Lions Field as our first priority for field improvements. City Council approved the funding in June 2008 to make some improvements, which will include the city's first own batting cages, which is a huge thing for the city and its sport groups. Staff and commission are working closely with youth sports groups on several field improvement issues and policies. And finally, one of the last projects is the dog park. This has kind of been an evolution over the last couple of years, really. It's just we got a group that attended one of our meetings. They brought up a lot of great issues, which were a number of them, which were easy to resolve. Simple things as replacing or adding some benches to the area. So we actually heard their concerns. We've held an additional public meeting to get notification out there for people to attend. We've compiled a list of concerns, and now we're at sort of discussion stage and looking at not only making some improvements to that site, as well as looking for alternative sites. One of the biggest things, as a dog owner myself, it's just too small. If you go there, there's just a lot of dogs, and big dogs, little dogs are on top of each other. My 2 dogs are scared to even enter, and my sister will never enter. So we're hopefully get a better site that people feel more confident in actually walking into. And one of the most important things I think as commission members is for us to be out there, to see, to get involved, to know. We're the voice of the people, and we hope that we make some good suggestions and recommendations. So many of us are involved in sports ourselves. We actually play at the fields, or our kids play at the fields. So in this past year, we actually went out and we visited some sites. More specifically, we actually visited some sites also with Dr. Hutt to get his input and some feelings and to see what we have. So we feel like we've got a good idea of what's needed and what's out there. And finally, what are our goals and objectives for 2009, 2010? determine if more athletic field space is needed in the community, research and recommend improvements to the city's athletic fields, determine best use for the Catalpa lot, which was a playground not replaced due to some issues on the site, utilities, assist with judging of art submittals for the memorial dedication statue and make recommendation to City Council, recommend and improvements for the Commodore Dog Park, and again, to consider and evaluate some sites, other alternatives. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions, Laura? Not Laura, to you and to all of the commissioners, some who've been there many, many years, and we appreciate the support. Thank you for the job that you do. The programs that we have here wouldn't function without the work that the commission does.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
That. Thank you. Now on item 9, public comment for items not on the agenda. It's the staff's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state laws. Is there anyone wishing to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, conduct of business. Item A, adopt resolution finding severe fiscal hardship will exist if additional city property tax funds are seized and additional unfunded mandates are adopted by the state of California. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item comes forward tonight as an initiative in coordination with the League of California Cities, a statewide initiative to express to the state of California the extreme difficulty, the hardship, in fact, that this city, along with many, if not virtually all other cities in the state of California, will experience if additional city property tax revenues are taken in order to assist in addressing the state's extremely serious, critical financial crisis. As you know, on May 5th, the Department of Finance and the governor announced that the state expected to initiate a provision in the state constitution that allows the state, after declaring a fiscal crisis at the state level, to borrow over $2 billion in local property taxes from cities, counties, and special districts throughout the state of California. This borrowing will doubtless cause deeper than already anticipated cuts to the broad variety of local services which residents in our city and in other cities and communities up and down the state are currently providing, and the difficulty that they are sharing in trying to balance their own budgets during this time of fiscal crisis throughout the state and the nation. The legislature would be required to implement this borrowing program by a vote of 2/3 of the legislature in order to declare and implement the urgency legislation that would be required to implement this borrowing. That legislation would include how interest earnings would be provided and when the loan would be repaid. At this point, those questions remain unanswered. As the City Council will recall, the opportunity to borrow local property taxes found its way into the state constitution in 2004 as the result of voter approval of an initiative and advocacy that was provided both by this members of this city, this community, as well as the League of California Cities. The intent was to provide a structured and thoughtful method by which taking of city revenues could occur, and that constitutional provision provides that any borrowing that is done by the state be repaid within 3 years, and that the state cannot borrow in this manner any more than 2 times in a 10-year period. You may wonder, or members of the public may wonder then, if this was something that was previously initiated by the League of Cities and was put into the state constitution with the support of persons up and down the state who care and are concerned about municipal services. then why are we opposing this at the current time? And the reason is that while the state is undoubtedly and indisputably in a severe financial crisis, the fact remains that so are we. This is a time of unprecedented fiscal turmoil and loss of basic revenues to cities, including the city of San Bruno, simply due to the downturn in the economy, which has impacted this city, and which we are currently attempting to balance a budget for fiscal year 9-10, that we project to be with revenues that are in the $3 million plus amount less than revenues in the previous year and in recent previous years. So we already have a very, very significant hole in our budget. We've been working diligently over the last approximately 5 months to prepare a balanced budget for the City Council's consideration. And this additional take by the state in this existing very difficult financial time would create a situation where the state would take an additional $889,000 of city property tax revenue. Cumulatively, statewide, a total of $2 billion, which measured against the state's estimated financial deficit of upwards of $20 billion, means that this is not the solution. This is only being proposed by the state as a portion of the solution, and one that will wreak untold difficulty on cities and counties up and down the state as we currently struggle, as I indicated before, to deliver very basic services that our residents rely on. The resolution that's in front of you tonight, as I indicated, is part of an initiative being spearheaded by the League of California Cities. It's my understanding that a number of cities throughout the state have already adopted this resolution, and the League's objective here is to have every city in the state take this action. The resolution really recites in main the report that I've just given you. It calls out the difficulties that that cities are already experiencing, and the concern about the action only deepening the financial crisis that we're all experiencing. Importantly, the resolution also acknowledges and identifies the borrowing that was put into the opportunity for borrowing that was put into the Constitution in 2004. And it also includes a clause that may be important to the City Council that protects the city from this resolution being used against us as a means by which we would be precluded from borrowing or some other type of financial action that we may wish to take in the future. It has been specifically and carefully reviewed by bond counsel to make sure that it does not accidentally state that the city does not have fiscal resources, but simply that this is a piece of advocacy, and one which, again, I would recommend to you as being an important strategic initiative, simply to identify this city's policy and its support for the efforts being undertaken by other cities and by the League to bring this issue in this crisis to a more acceptable resolution, one that we, of course, have been involved in trying to work with our legislators to understand and to assist their understanding of the trickle-down effects. So with that, I'd be open to any questions and would urge your action on this resolution.
Any questions from council or action from council?
Through the chair.
Councilman Ibarra.
It's difficult to read because it is so critical, and I like the team we have in this city as far as trying to deal with this crisis, and anything that we can do and help smooth it out. But yeah, it's going to be tough. anyway, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. The next item, we're going to take the next two items together as far as the staff report, but we'll act on them separately. Item 10B is to waive second reading and adopt ordinance adjusting water as presented in the notice of proposed increases mailed to all property owners. And item C is to waive second reading and adopt ordinance adjusting wastewater rates as presented in notice of proposed increase in mail to all property owners. Mr. O'Leary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be before you tonight. Tonight is as you had mentioned, the second reading of the ordinance to increase the water and sewer rates. Just to back up through the process that got us here, staff had started the process on adjusting the rates back in summer when we put together the initial parameters for the rate model. We met with the utility subcommittee in November and March. Council approved the Prop 218 notice at the end of March. Those notices went out for a 45-day comment period, or noticed all the property owners in San Bruno 45 days before we had the first reading, which was on May 12th. At that May 12th meeting, we had a lot of comments from the people that attended, asking a variety of questions. I think council and staff answered a lot of those questions, but we wanted to provide some additional follow-up at the second reading to sort of clarify and to provide some more context for those issues. However, in between the first and second reading of the ordinance, we did have National Public Works Week, which was last week. And on Friday, May 22nd, we had a Public Works open house. We had two locations where residents could come in and view a variety of things. We had the location at the City Hall, as well as at our operations and maintenance yard down on Huntington and San Felipe. City Hall, we had a variety of handouts talking about water conservation issues, water rebates, and background information on stormwater and wastewater and sewer projects, some background on some previous capital projects that we had done in the past, and some plans we have to do in the future. At the corporation yard, we had all the equipment on display. It was a great setup there. We had all the big pieces of equipment that helped maintain and fix the sewer system and the water system. We had cranes out there. We had pipes, how pipes were fixed, the state of the pipes as they exist in the ground in some of the areas. So it was a good opportunity for the public to sort of see where we are in the state of things with our utility infrastructure. And I'll just start off by talking a little bit about the sort of describing in a bigger picture where the underground infrastructure is. We had some comments that had some questions about the capital program that was proposed and what that really involves, and to just sort of give folks a better sense of what the scale of these are. I'll talk about sort of the value of the sewer and the water system. So for sewer, we have 74 miles of underground pipe. The replacement cost for all that underground pipe is $93.4 million. We have 6 sewer pumping stations, which moves the sewage sort of around our geographic hilly area and then down to the San Bruno South San Francisco treatment plant. That's about $6.5 million. Together, so that sewer system, we're about at $99.9 million as a replacement value for the sewer system. Water is sort of similar. We have 104 miles of underground pipe and water. That's for $79.4 million. We've got 8 pumping stations, 5 wells, 8 storage tanks. So all that above ground infrastructure is $46.7 million. So it's a total of $126 million for water, $99.9 million for sewer. So the grand total is about $225 million. So that gives folks a sense of the scale of the continual investment needed to maintain the system. Certainly, no agency could replace or fix everything at once, and so there has to be steps taken every year, in fact, to maintain the system, to revitalize it. We've taken a lot of steps to address specific capacity issues or known problems, but the work going forward is really to address and make sure we make these continued investments to make sure infrastructure doesn't get too old. We don't have future problems that we can't mitigate earlier. So that sort of gives a little bit of the scale of the capital program that folks had some comments on at the first reading.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there were also comments made on an item within the rates, the rate ordinance for wastewater having to do with the residential quantity charge. And the questions were raised regarding the winter average and the calculation of the average. In order to determine this quantity charge, the ordinance spells out how this is calculated. The basis for the calculation really is a determination of the wettest months during the year to make sure that the sewer calculation discounts water use for irrigation in those years where it would normally be the heaviest, and that's really during the periods of December through April. I think the speaker pointed out that with the changing climate and with current conditions, those months may not be appropriate for the calculation. We will, and we met with the subcommittee last week, and staff is prepared to review and analyze that winter average in that calculation to see if there is a more precise indication of water usage so that we are in fact limiting it to those months where the least and where the least amount of water is used and where the least amount of water would actually go down the sewer for that calculation. So that is something that we will be looking at. It will probably not be applicable until the winter of 2009. We intend to come back to the council with a suggestion for changing the ordinance and clarifying that in time that we could allow the public in advance to know of this change so that it can, people do have some control and they're able to use less water during the winter. They'll know exactly how the calculation is going to be done so that when it hits their charge, they will understand that. The other aspect had to do also with the calculation on the average and a question of how the software system rounds to the whole unit number. And we believe, and again, we'll be notifying customers that those that believe they're overcharged or have a higher charge based on the rounding formula will be able to apply for a credit for the value of the rounding difference. So they'll be able to get a $1 credit for that rounding factor. While it's correct, it may be viewed as an overstatement by some, so we will allow for that value to be returned to the customer. With that, I think we'd be glad to answer any questions the council
Any questions from council? Okay. If not, action from council, we'll need to take each item separately. The first would be waiving the second reading on the water adjustments.
Move to waive the second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we would need to have an ordinance, motion to adopt the ordinance.
For each?
So moved.
For each. So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that a resolution?
Okay, and then item C, waive second reading and adopt ordinance adjusting wastewater rates as presented.
So
in the
moved.
notice.
Second.
So motion and a second to waive the first reading. Any discussion?
Second reading.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both ordinances pass unanimously. Item D, receive oral report regarding Chamber of Commerce proposal to establish a downtown farmers market on Sundays beginning June 14th, 2009.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Rivera?
due to my position on the Chamber of Commerce Board, I will need to recuse myself.
Okay. And City Manager?
Great. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a brief oral report to introduce you to the idea that a farmers market proposal has been received from the Chamber of Commerce. Specifically, the Chamber is interested in providing a relationship with a farmers market organization that would place a farmers market in downtown San Bruno on San Mateo Avenue on Sunday mornings during the season, which runs roughly from May until September. What we're asking you for tonight is not any specific action, but to bring this to your attention in order that we can expedite the review and approval process as we are now late into the spring season, and farmers markets have either typically begun or are about to begin that normal 3 months or 3.5 month season. What we're specifically asking you for tonight is direction to bring back an action item at your next council meeting on June 9th. The action that is required of the city would be to close the street in order that the farmers market could occur. Secondly, we're asking you to assign a subcommittee to work directly with staff and with the Chamber of Commerce to more carefully and thoroughly review the details of the proposed plan and to work out any items of operation, or if there are any areas of concern that need our attention prior to a start date. And thirdly, we're asking your direction to initiate a mailed information piece to businesses in the San Mateo Avenue corridor so that they have an opportunity to know and to prepare for the possible initiation of a farmer's market. The proposal that we've received from the Chamber of Commerce is proposes a start date of June 14th. That would be the week following the Posey Parade. The proposed date and time of the farmers market is Sunday mornings from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And I mentioned before, the location is proposed to be on San Mateo Avenue, more specifically on the block between Sylvan and Genevan. The Chamber of Commerce has worked on this proposal for some period of time, and that's part of why I'm here tonight with an oral report, but not an action item. And that is that there was a specific issue that required a fair amount of time and attention to resolve, and that was the need for funding support to the farmers market organization to assist in the first and second year costs of a farmers market to the total amount of $15,000. Initially, the Chamber of Commerce had thought about requesting those funds from the city, but has subsequently worked very diligently within their own organization to identify their own funds that could be dedicated to this project, given their clear understanding of the financial constraints the city is currently operating under and the difficulty that might be presented in providing a proposal that included a request for financial assistance. So with that, I'm asking for those three pieces of direction and any comments or questions from the City Council.
Any questions from staff? We should probably just have a motion to direct staff to move forward with that, since there will be some expenditures. So is there a motion to give staff direction?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. In discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We also need, are there two members of the council that would like to serve on a subcommittee? Ask for volunteers. Ms. Medina and anyone else?
I'll do it if no one else will.
And Irene? Okay, and just point of reference also, if you're entering into a multi-year contract, or their Chamber of Commerce is, you know, the first Sunday of every June is Posey Parade, so that needs to be excluded. Okay, item E, adopt resolution authorizing city manager to execute construction contract with J.J. Nugent Incorporated for the El Camino Real Median Phase 1 upgrade project, an amount of $411,871, and authorize a total construction budget, an amount of $453,871. Mr. Davis?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be before you with the first phase of a long-anticipated median landscape rehabilitation project on El Camino Real. On El Camino Real, we have 16 landscape medians, and what's before you tonight is the first phase to rehabilitate 5 median islands. You might ask the question how we selected those first 5. This group of medians includes median 1, which is at the northern gateway entry into the city. We're going to rehabilitate that median so that we can accommodate a gateway monument sign that's been fabricated through a separate project. Similarly, at the south gateway to the city at median 15, we are also going to rehabilitate that median. Currently, median 4 is on El Camino adjacent to 380. There's currently no landscaping in that median, and so that one really deserves some attention now. And then lastly, there are 2 medians, number 10 and 11, which are adjacent to the downtown between Angus and Genevan. And the thought was that's in a high pedestrian emphasis zone, and so we selected those medians to be rehabilitated with this phase. The first phase rehabilitates 5 medians. The additional 11 medians are scheduled to be accomplished as a second project that will be accomplished with a schedule that I'll talk about as we go on. The council has been involved in the past in defining a design scheme, and the concept with this project is really to renew, to bring a more modern and formal feeling to the medians in El Camino Real. The scheme includes a series of 4 different trees, and on each median island there's going to be two different tree selections: a large tree that will be in the interior of the median and a smaller tree that will be at the exterior. And there's 2 mixings of those trees. One mixing will be redwoods and redbud, with redwoods being the large tree, and the second would be hackberry with melaleuca. So it will, there will be a pattern that will be repeating, but will be different depending on the medians. In addition, there's 4 separate ground covers that are going to be used, and that pattern is going to be repeated in each and every median, but it starts with a low material at the beginning of the median, and then it raises to a little larger. The plan is that they're going to be planted pretty heavily, similar to what we see on San Bruno Avenue, so it will really be a significant improvement to the medians in El Camino. Up on the screen also is images of the different materials. I also have a board up at the front of the auditorium, so if anyone's interested, they can take a look to get a better sense of what the specific design concept is. As I said also, this project is going to accommodate the installation of 2 new gateway monuments, and up on the screen is a photograph of the completed fabricated monument. They're completely fabricated and ready to be installed. The plan is, once the landscaping's in place, we'll come back and do that installation. As far as the schedule, if council takes an action tonight to award a contract, we should be in a position to be able to issue a notice to proceed by the end of June. Construction could then begin shortly thereafter, and the construction period would extend through the beginning of November to make sure that all of that work was completed. Once the construction is complete on the landscaping, the plan is to schedule the installation and also to celebrate that significant accomplishment with an unveiling ceremony. So those dates will have to be set, but we really want to get the landscaping work complete so we can schedule that piece. Phase 2, as I said, is in design right now. The plan is to bid in spring 2010, construction in the summer of 2010, with completion by early spring of 2011. So that would be for all 16 medians. Again, tonight, I'm asking you to approve the first phase, which is 5 medians. I want to also address the project funding. This is a very large project, and we approached it in multiple phases. This particular phase is funded with $282,000 in Samtrans grants, or grant dollars that are dedicated to the Grand Boulevard Initiative. In addition, redevelopment funds have supported to the tune of about $179,000. With that, those sources of funding, we have sufficient funds to build phase 1. We have grant commitments for a portion of phase 2, and we're on line to receive another approximately $750,000 in grant funds to build the second phase. So with that, I'm recommending that that you award the contract that we're presenting, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of staff?
Just comments. I just want thank you for explaining the funding, because as much as we're hearing crisis and as much as we're hearing financial difficulties, it would seem that beautifying our medians would be a luxury. As much as it's going to look very good, I appreciate letting the public know that this is not money that could be spent elsewhere. This is actual grant money and redevelopment money that can go towards this type of project. So, but I'd like to say that being on the subcommittee, these meetings are going to look totally different. You're not going to see the concrete mounds. It means it's going to be a well planted and very colorful addition to El Camino. So, thank you.
Through the chair.
Just
a comment as well. It should be noted as well that they did meet with the parks maintenance staff that's going to be maintaining them to try to figure ways for better safety, maintenance, water conservation, and so I think that was an important factor to actually go out to those folks that are going to have to do the work and try to improve the time that they have to commit and the safety element and the water conservation. So thank you for doing that.
Any other questions or action from council?
The chair will introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Francella.
Aye. Item F, adopt resolution requesting the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to allocate fiscal year 2009-2010 Transportation Development Act Article 3 pedestrian bicycle project funding to the City of San Bruno for the Commodore Drive pedestrian access project. Mr. Shannon.
No. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure again to be before you tonight to talk about this exciting project that we've developed over the last few months. This is another grant-funded project. The grant is often referred to as TDA Article 3. It stands for Transportation Development Act, and it is dedicated, a federal fund source that's dedicated to make bicycle and pedestrian improvements in specific areas. It's a process that's facilitated by the City County Association of Governments. However, the City Council, the CCAG selects the projects that are proposed. Those selected projects then are forwarded to the MTC for official funding, which is the formal request that we're asking Council to make tonight. It's a competitive process. We're proud to say that the city finished third out of the 16 that were submitted. What's going to happen next is the forwarding of that recommendation, that ranking, to MTC for funding. I'll talk a little bit more about the project site and then talk some more about how the process will go from here. The project site description is a place that doesn't have any sidewalk, essentially. It's located adjacent to the Federal Archives building. On one side of Commodore, that section of Commodore, you have Commodore Park, the dog park, Palos Verdes School, you have the Bay Hill Shopping Center. The other side, you have BART, Tan Ferran, and the Crossing. So that little corridor without sidewalk actually separates some pretty high-use areas that we wanted to address. Another unique factor is the way the roadway on Commodore Drive splits. That provides some opportunities and some challenges, and I'll talk about that when I show you the map here in a sec. The construction will involve 575 feet of 6-foot wide sidewalk along the north side of Commodore Drive, which is adjacent to the Archives building. We'll install 10 accessible curb ramps. For a portion of that roadway, we're actually going to have to widen it. There's one portion, Commodore sort of splits into a Y. One of the legs of the Y is sort of two one-lane roads. The other section of the Y is one road that goes two ways. And so that section of the road that goes two ways isn't quite wide enough to receive the sidewalk, so we'll have to widen that a little bit. We'll also install some pedestrian scale lighting where none currently exists, as well as refresh the pavement markings and add some appropriate signage for bicycles and pedestrians. Here's a sort of the site plan here. Where the mouse is circling is sort of the project area. This is the Federal Archives. This is Tan Ferran BART. You have Bay Hill over here. So it's this section in particular that we're looking at. And if you can see this, I hope you can see this okay. The light gray lines there are where we're going to install the new sidewalk. These little yellow dots are where we're going to install the pedestrian curb ramps. And as I'm running my mouse along here, This is the section of the roadway that is one lane. So cars here travel from the right side of the screen to the left side. Once they get to this section, this is where it becomes two lanes again. This is the section of the roadway that will need a little bit of widening, which sort of presents a little bit of a challenge. So besides the lack of sidewalk, there are some non-standard pavement markings. However, even though there's no sidewalk and the pavement markings are sort of need to be refreshed, it is still used as a pedestrian corridor for employees commute, people walking from BART to places of work or business. It's used for school drop-off and personal errands. And to do so, folks have to walk in the street. So we want to try to address that. And here are a couple pictures. The circle here is a student with his backpack on walking down. Here we have one of our seniors from the affordable senior housing in the crossing going to do some shopping. And of course, we want to get those folks out of the street. A lot of things came together to make this project worthwhile to pursue. It is located within a pedestrian emphasis zone, which the general plan calls out specific areas where improvement should be directed to improve pedestrian access and enjoyment. Last year, the city received a small grant from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to study bicycle routes and pedestrian routes from the BART station to different areas in the city where you could shop or live, and it identified particular paths bikes and pedestrians take to and from the BART station, and also where those improvements should be made. One of the most important improvements that they identified was this gap on Commodore Drive that we're trying to address. Literally at the same time we were finalizing this study, a group of San Bruno residents and employees at the Federal Archives came forward to the city with a petition and a request to address this lack of sidewalk and sort of the lack of crosswalk issues. So it really was because we had the professionals saying, hey, this is an area that needs to be looked at. We had a strong community desire. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee of San Bruno, when reviewing this project, thought it would be one of the priority improvements that the city could make and recommended that staff try to identify some funding to make this project happen. The costs, unfortunately, are higher than we would like, and that really involves because sidewalk is fairly expensive and we're installing a lot of sidewalk. We also have to do that widening of the roadway not all of it, but there's a portion of it that needs to be widened to accommodate the new 6 feet of sidewalk. So the funding request that we're going to receive from TDA is $160,000. There is a local match then left over is $160,000, and that can come from several sources. Because it is in the redevelopment area, it qualifies for redevelopment funding, and the initial recommendation for the 09-10 budget is to use that funding. However, if that doesn't pan out to be the most appropriate use, there are also some dedicated transportation capital fund projects, capital funding sources that have to be used for transportation-related issues that this project would qualify for. So there was no anticipation or intent at all to use any general fund money for this project. These are all from dedicated funding sources. However, hopefully we don't have to use a local match. We did apply to the state for a Safe Routes to Schools program. It's a very competitive process. Only about 25% of the applicants actually receive funding. However, we have won some funding awards over the past 8 or 9 years or so with the Stop, Look, and Wave campaign, as well as most recently we refreshed all of the crosswalks and pavement markings near schools with thermoplastic striping, which made the pavement markings pop out a little more and reduce maintenance costs. So we think this is a pretty stronger application we've had in a couple of years for Safe Routes to School, so we do hope that we can get this funding, although it certainly is not assured. So now that I've covered those costs, the timeline is what's remaining. The City County Association of Governments approved the project in March. Tonight is when the city can formally request the funding from the MTC. We expect MTC to appropriate funds this summer, and the design and construction to coincide with the street paving project that will occur in summer of 2010. So I believe with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council?
Go ahead.
Yep. Councilwoman O'Connell?
Because the sidewalk is going to take away dirt, right? Or is it
pavement? It's pavement. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a very, very wide street.
I was just wondering if we've looked at using pervious concrete so that we restore some of the water permeation.
I think as we go through the design of getting through the particulars of the design, we'll look at, there are some ways to do pervious concrete. There are some other methods of doing a green street type idea that we could investigate. So we might be able to actually add more pervious area. Right now, none really exists, but we would try to add more if it looks technically feasible.
Okay, and then along, if I may for 1 minute, along with the signage for the street crosswalking, could we have look at the driving signage for the one-way? It can be very confusing because it looks like you're going into a parking lot, which you are sort of, but it doesn't look like it's a one-way street to me anyway.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Not a bunch of ballers either. Through the chair, if I may, as the city's representative on the CCAG Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, I was proud to see this project go through. That committee is a committee that selects the 16 projects that were approved, and if it's not for the staff and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, with the presentation, filling out of the grant, and all the information, and these things don't get voted on. And I'm happy to say that San Bruno's this project was third in line, and if we were asking more, we probably would have gotten more. But I think it was a conservative approach. I think we do score high when we do match funds and don't get too greedy. I like to think that in the future that we'll be able to have the success in getting more projects. But I want to thank Jim and the staff and and our local Bike and Pedestrian Committee for their diligence. I know we've tried before in other grants, but this is really good, and it really I'm proud to be on the committee and get comments from our colleagues in other cities saying that this was a very good project and they really liked scoring it. With that, if there's no other comments, I'll introduce the resolution.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Francella.
Aye. Item G, adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Steve Laguerro's backhoe service for the Lions Field batting cages project in the amount of $40,800 and approve a construction budget in the amount of $47,000. Mr. Short?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. As you heard earlier tonight from the Parks and Recreation Commission's presentation, the commission is looking at making field improvements to a variety of different fields, with the highest priority being the ones to Lions Field. The item before you tonight is approval of a construction contract for the batting cage. The batting cage will be the city's first batting cage and will add over 1,200 new hours of use of opportunity to the youth programs, the nonprofit sports programs, the baseball and softball groups. This item was previously brought to the council as part of a package to do other field improvements, to do the some of the fence work, the backstops, the dugouts, some of the improving the pad under the bleachers and around the bleacher areas. Part of that project came to you using state grant money. From Proposition 40, the 2002 Park Bond Act, some of the money was included in that project. As the state has frozen its grant funds for an undetermined amount of time, staff went back, separated the two projects, and is coming forward with you tonight with the batting cage project. The other advantage of doing this is the batting cage project, the construction of it will not interrupt the activity that's going on in the field, where the fencing, the backstop, dugouts, etc. Needs to be done at a time when there's interruption in play. Hopefully we can, the state will unfreeze the funds and we can come back to you in the fall with a November target date for the second phase of the project. But at this point we are looking at the batting cage itself. The bids were opened on May 1st. There were 6 contractors that submitted bids. Steve Laguerro's backhoe service was the low bidder. The references checked out positively. This firm has done work with the city previously and successfully, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on the project.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair. Okay.
Councilmember Medina?
Two things. It stated in December of '09, we went out to advertised, I'm sure it was December of '08. But how is the scheduling going to be determined, and who's going to schedule, and who or what leagues are going to be able to utilize that batting cage?
Staff will be working with the nonprofits on that. We have asked for a field users meeting the first week of June, and assuming that council approves the construction of the project, that will be one of our topics that we go over with them.
Okay, because there are other batting cages that other groups have put. So we do have other batting cages in the community,
right,
just not done by our dollars or by our persons. They've been done by the outside. So are they primarily going to utilize theirs, or is that open for everybody to utilize?
I think
or does that need to be determined at that meeting?
We will determine at that meeting. We do need to take that into account that certain groups already have opportunities for that activity. The pony has their batting cage, the softball has their batting cage. This is one that everybody will be able to share, and it will expand the use, but we also have to take into account that some groups already do have certain hours set aside for them.
Okay. Through the chair, these same groups, were they alerted as to the change in scope and the delay in the grant funds?
I believe all of the groups were notified of the change, and as well as any of the original vendors that put in bids on the first phase of the project.
Okay. And just for those that don't know what a batting cage is, it's a totally enclosed cyclone fenced area. And does it have a concrete slab also, some portion?
The slab is being added in as part of this contract. There's also netting that's dropped inside, so the balls do not actually hit the fencing material to deaden the sound, and also to protect the balls. There will be electricity so that the leagues can use a pitching machine, and we will have to work with the leagues on the rules of the batting cage as well as the times to make sure that the players are wearing helmets, that they use the proper protective screens, etc.
And you're providing two of them along both? Are they going along both foul lines, or along both?
No, side by side, down on the third base line of Lions Field.
Any other questions? Action from council?
The chair will introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item H, adopt resolution reaffirming the City of San Bruno's membership in the San Mateo County Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Services Group. Chief A.
Honorable Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm here tonight to request your approval of a resolution that reaffirms San Bruno's membership in the San Mateo County Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Services Group, which is a joint powers authority. This joint powers authority is generally known as the Advanced Life Support, JPA. The current JPA agreement was finalized in 1997. This agreement included all the fire agencies in San Mateo County with the exception of South San Francisco and San Mateo County Fire. The agreement provides for the delivery of pre-hospital emergency medical services within the county. As the county has negotiated a new contract with a private ambulance provider, the JPA board felt the existing agreement would require extensive review and modification to bring it current and in anticipation of operating in coordination with different contractual arrangements scheduled to begin on July 1st, 2009. This revised agreement was approved at the February 9th, 2009 ALS JPA board meeting, and the city attorney has also had a chance to review the document. This agreement was amended to define quorum, membership on the board, and disposition of property and funds upon termination of the group. The significant changes to the membership on the board, which now includes San Mateo County Fire, as party to the agreement, and the separation of Belmont and San Carlos to give each party voting rights. Just to advise the City Council, there's also a revised operational agreement that was finalized between the private ambulance company contractor, AMR, and the JPA. The revisions addressed issues in the old contract that benefit the JPA, especially the relationship being equal partners with AMR. If you refer to your staff report, you can see the old vertical structure where the ALS JPA was actually in a subcontractor role with the ambulance provider. In conjunction with these new agreements, the county-wide automatic aid and full boundary drop agreement will also be renewed, and I plan to bring that back at a future council meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but first I'd like to ask Councilwoman O'Connell, who sits as the chair of the ALS-JPA board, if she has any comments.
I'd just like to urge us to pass this. It's actually an agreement to approve the amendments, and we worked very hard to clean up the old agreement to make it more streamlined, to include elected officials in the executive board that wasn't there before. And I think we've responded well to the fire chiefs and their concerns and with the county, and we're now more equal partnership with them as relayed by Chief Hag. So if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of council or action from council?
I'll adopt the resolution.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item 12, comments from council members. Any council members have any comments? If not, at this time, I'll recess the city council and call the...
May I have one short comment? Very short.
Okay, I need you to go to the podium and state your name and...
David Nigel, of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, representing the Parks and Recreation Commission. Since the inception of our committee in November 2002, we've accomplished a lot. But I just want to acknowledge, and I know we take staff for granted, but with the leadership of Jim Shannon and Laura Russell, we have accomplished so much. Their leadership and collegiality has been really fantastic. We've, you can see what came before you tonight, and there are many other projects that we're looking at short-term and long-term. And I could say the same thing for his short tenure with our director, Randy Schwartz, in the Parks and Rec. I worked with him for many years in Burlingame, and just during these last few months, we are on track, and it's a privilege for me to serve the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated. This time we'll call the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency to order. If we could have roll call, please.
Board Member O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Chair Ruane.
Here.
Chair Franzella.
Here.
Board Member Medina.
Here.
Board Member Ibera.
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 12th, 2009 will stand approved as submitted unless there's any changes or corrections. Hearing none, they'll stand approved. Consent calendar, all items are considered routine. There are no items on the consent calendar this evening. Public hearing, there are none scheduled. Public comment, it's the staff's, it's the council's policy or the agency's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation. Is there anyone wanting to address the agency? Seeing none, we'll move on to conduct of business. Receive report on owner participation agreement. City Manager.
Thank you, Board Chair and members of the agency board. You have no material in your packet tonight, and we are not asking you to take an action, although we continue to be very hopeful that this process of completing an owner participation agreement will conclude soon, and that we will, as I indicated, soon have an action item in front of you. The purpose of tonight's agenda item is simply, again, to give you an update and to more specifically identify for you exactly what it is that we're attempting to work out and to resolve and negotiate with the property owner, Mr. Stegner, and his development company. As the agency board is aware, the basic content and purpose of the owner participation agreement is to facilitate the agency's participation, its financial participation in the project that will be developed on parcels 9 and 10 of the crossing site, and more specifically, the inclusion in that project of a high-quality, casual fine dining restaurant, that being the priority objective of the agency and the community in the development of the overall retail project. We're currently continuing to work out with Mr. Stegner and his team the details of the specific language included in the owner participation agreement that will secure a firm understanding of the design details and the finishes that will be incorporated into the project, and more specifically into the restaurant component of the project. Secondly, and related to the first, we're cognizant of the need for the agency to achieve a level of assurance and certainty through the agreement, not only that the space will be built out in a manner that is specifically intended for a casual fine dining restaurant, and that will maximize the continued likelihood that this space will be used for this purpose into perpetuity. We are also working out the details of how the investment that the agency is intending to make will be secured, both by the completion of that project as well as in the event that for whatever unforeseen reason does not occur, that build out does not occur in the manner that we expect. More specifically, we're taking a great deal of time and effort, as is Mr. Stegner and his group, to work out these details because we recognize the risk that is inherent in this agreement, in the arrangement that this agreement secures, and that is that the agency is providing funds to assist the project, or would provide funds to assist the project, but the agency is not actually directly involved in developing the project. And in fact, this is a very common activity of a redevelopment agency, but it is one, as I said, that does carry some risk. In essence, the agency is contributing and working towards the build out of its vision, and in this case, that vision includes a certain character and quality of the tenant that will occupy a significant space of this particular project. Restaurants, as this agency board and you as individuals, I'm sure, realize are inherently risky businesses. And because there is no absolute guarantee that that vision and the expectations of the agency will absolutely be met, in that there is no guarantee that the restaurant will open or that it will be successful. This agreement attempts to ensure that vision and an acceptable security for the city's investment by guaranteeing or assuring that the space is built out in a manner that makes it actually unlikely to be occupied in the future by some other type of business or even some other type of restaurant. The idea is to create, to the best of our ability, an environment and a location, and as I indicated before, a character and quality of the physical built space that will be highly attractive to the type of restaurant that the agency board and the community need and expect. And again, to maximize the likelihood that that space will be used for that purpose into perpetuity. Just in closing, I would again emphasize that the best that we can do, and again, it takes a fair amount of close coordination with the developer, because this is a very important and, as I indicated, not a project that is not without some amount of risk. We believe that the closest that we can come is to use the basic tool of redevelopment in the manner that redevelopment was expected to be used, to assure that the project is built out in a way that meets the agency's quality requirements, and essentially makes our financial participation one which, not unlike the participation that we have provided to the housing components of the crossing project, to buy down the affordability of those housing units and make those make sure that there are units that are available to low-income households. That in essence, what that does and what we're proposing to do here is to fill in the gap between what the market would otherwise produce and what it is that we need and expect. Now again, that gap is not horrific. This is not a bad site for a restaurant, and we're not trying to force the market to do something that would otherwise be really out of the ballpark, but simply to make sure that the restaurant use, and we've been assured both by the developer as well as numerous individuals in the restaurant business and the restaurant industry, that this is a good place for a restaurant. We want to make sure that we have adequately articulated and that we are bringing forward an agreement which adequately and appropriately and reasonably assures you that that restaurant will be built out in the manner that we expect, and that is at the level of quality that represents what we define casual fine dining. So again, unfortunately, I don't have an action item for you tonight, but want to keep you continuously updated, and with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from agency members?
Yeah.
Not, thank you for the update. At this time, the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency will adjourn until the next called meeting. At this time, we'll reconvene the San Bruno City Council. The City Council will go into closed session on two items. First, to discuss with legal counsel and provide direction regarding potential litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B1. And second, the City Manager and Human Resource Director requests a closed session pursuant to California Government Section 4957.6 regarding direction for labor negotiations with the San Bruno Professional Firefighters Association, Public Safety Mid-Management Bargaining Unit, Miscellaneous Group Mid-Management Bargaining Unit, San Bruno Police Bargaining Unit, and the San Bruno Management Employees Association. There will be no reportable items to come from that. It will just be the council giving direction at this time. From there, we'll adjourn to the next regular City Council meeting, which will be held here at the San Bruno Senior Center on June 9th at 7 o'clock p.m. Thank you.